Have you ever wondered why peace feels elusive even in moments of success? Why does that quiet ache linger in your chest when you've achieved what you thought would satisfy you? Picture this: you're sitting in the stillness of a morning, coffee in hand, sunlight filtering through the window, yet something gnaws at your soul. A whisper in your doubt, a lie wrapped in comfort, a shadow that slithers into your thoughts when you least expect it. It's not a dramatic invasion, but a slow, silent seepage, like ink staining water. You brush it off as stress, fatigue, or the weight of responsibility. But what if it's more? What if the very air you breathe is thick with a battle you can't see? The Bible warns us in Ephesians 6:1, "Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." This isn't a metaphor. This is reality. The enemy doesn't storm your gates with a roar. He slips through the cracks of your weariness, your loneliness, your unspoken fears. He disguises himself as logic that says, "You're too old to matter," as nostalgia that chains you to regret, or as comfort that numbs you to the purpose God still has for your life. This is why we're having this conversation today. For those of us in the later chapters of life, the stakes are even higher. The enemy targets our sense of identity because he knows a generation rooted in wisdom and faith is a threat to his lies. He wants you to believe your best days are behind you, that your voice no longer carries weight, that your prayers are just whispers lost in the wind. But here's the truth: your life is a lighthouse. Your stories, your struggles, your resilience, these are torches that can guide generations. Satan's greatest trick isn't making you doubt God's existence, it's making you doubt your place in his story. He twists truth into half-truths, dresses destruction in familiarity, and sells despair as being realistic. If we don't confront these disguises, we risk living smaller, quieter, dimmer versions of the lives we're called to, and that's exactly what he wants. In this journey together, we'll pull back the curtain on his schemes. We'll expose how he manipulates everyday moments, your thoughts as you scroll through newsfeeds, the heaviness that follows a family gathering, the cynicism that creeps in when dreams feel delayed. We'll reclaim the weapons God has given us: truth that shatters lies, identity that overcomes shame, and a purpose that defies expiration dates. This isn't about fear, it's about freedom. It's about recognizing that the same Spirit who raised Christ from the dead lives in you, and that makes you dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. So let's get uncomfortable. Let's confront the shadows we've tolerated. Let's name the lies we've nursed as truths. Today, we tear off his masks. Today, we step into the light of who we really are, and who we're called to be in him. Fact: the devil's wardrobe, 3 modern disguises. Let's start with the first disguise, the illusion of control. You've felt it, haven't you? That restless urge to stockpile savings, to cling to possessions, to micromanage every detail of your life, or your children's lives, as if your white-knuckled grip could outwit chaos. We tell ourselves it's responsibility, but deep down it's a fear masquerading as wisdom. Jesus warned us in Luke 12:15. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Yet here we are, swallowing the lie that security is something we can buy, build, or barter. Picture a woman in her 60s sitting at her kitchen table, scrolling through retirement accounts like they're holy texts. She's worked hard, saved diligently, but instead of peace she feels a gnawing dread. What if the market crashes? What if her health fails? The enemy whispers, "You're one disaster away from ruin." And she tightens her grip, mistaking anxiety for stewardship. But here's the poison in the Instagrammable cup. The more we worship control, the less we trust the provider. When did enough become a dirty word? When did we start believing God's promises expire at retirement? The truth is, your security isn't in your savings, it's in the hands of the one who fed thousands with a boy's lunch. Let that sink in. The same God who clothes lilies and guides sparrows is orchestrating your story, not as a passive observer, but as a loving father. So why do we act like he's a forgetful landlord? Now let's unmask the second tactic, the filter of comparison. You scroll through social media, and there it is, a highlight reel of grandchildren's graduations, tropical vacations, and perfectly staged family photos. At first, it's harmless, but slowly, it twists into something darker. That ache in your chest when you see a friend's anniversary post. The way you measure your worth against someone else's curated joy. That's not harmless browsing, that's envy in a designer disguise. Proverbs 14:30 says, "A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones." And oh, how the rot sets in. The enemy doesn't need to destroy your life, he just needs you to resent someone else's. He takes the God-given gift of community and weaponizes it, turning connection into competition. Imagine a man in his 70s, once confident in his legacy, now hunched over a screen wondering why his life looks smaller than others. The lie isn't loud, it's a silent drip: you didn't do enough. You don't have enough. You aren't enough. But here's the truth: comparison is a funhouse mirror. It distorts reality, shrinking your blessings and magnifying your lacks. When did we forget that the kingdom isn't built on viral moments, but on quiet acts of faithfulness? That your value isn't measured in likes, but in the love you've poured into others. Break the mirror. Step into the light of your own irreplaceable story. Finally, let's confront the comfort of compromise. This one's slippery. It doesn't roar, it shrugs, it whispers. Why stand firm when you could just fit in? We see it everywhere: morality diluted as tolerance, integrity traded for convenience, conviction labeled old-fashioned. Romans 12:2 commands, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world." Yet we've normalized spiritual laziness as progress. Think of the grandfather who stays silent when his family mocks faith, telling himself, "I don't want to cause conflict." Or the grandmother who laughs at off-color jokes to seem relevant. The enemy isn't just attacking truth, he's selling surrender as sophistication. He serves you moral compromise in a trendy reusable cup, calling it open-mindedness. But compromise is a slow poison. Each small yes to what you know is wrong deadens your spiritual senses. When did courage become judgmental? When did holding fast to truth become a liability? Here's the kicker: the world doesn't respect a faith that bends to its whims. Your grandchildren don't need a cool grandparent, they need one who radiates unwavering love and truth. You think your voice doesn't matter? Tell that to Esther, who saved a nation in her later years. Tell that to Moses, who led millions at 80. God doesn't retire his warriors, he redeems their fire. So here's the challenge: name your shadow. Is it the fear that drives your need for control? The envy festering in your scrolls? The compromises you've coddled as grace? Bring it into the light. The enemy thrives in anonymity, but Christ's truth strips his power. You're not fighting for relevance, you're fighting from victory. That ache in your soul, it's a homing beacon for eternity. Don't numb it, listen to it. Your life isn't a winding down clock, it's a thunderous declaration that God isn't done. So rise up, lace your boots with gospel peace, and storm the gates of hell with love. The world needs your unmasked, unapologetic wildfire faith, who's ready to stop surviving and start shining. Truth. God's astray, seeing beyond skin deep. I see you battling the spreadsheets of your soul, the endless calculations of achievements, likes, promotions, and polished facades. You've tucked your worth into columns of not enough, your value rising and falling with the fickle stock market of human approval. But hear this: your worth isn't a spreadsheet, you're a signed poem, a masterpiece etched by the fingers of God himself. Psalm 139 war tune doesn't say, "You are fearfully and efficiently managed." It declares, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." Imagine a poet crafting verses in the dark, not for profit or applause, but purely for love. That's your creator. He didn't mass-produce you on an assembly line, he breathed life into dust and called it sacred. So why do we let the world reduce us to bullet points? A young mother scrolls job boards at 2 a.m., her resume screaming gap years, while the enemy hisses, unqualified, unchosen. But God isn't scanning her LinkedIn. He's holding the first draft of her life, the one where her laughter soothes colicky babies and her hands knead hope into sourdough. That's kingdom work. That's poetry. I see you clutching someone else's scroll, comparing your chapter 3 to their highlight reel, your quiet Tuesday to their viral moment. You've memorized their script, the promotions, the vacations, the grandchildren's accolades. But hear this: your scroll isn't theirs. God's drafting your epic, and he doesn't write filler chapters. Jeremiah 29:11 isn't a bland Hallmark card, it's a battle cry. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Picture an old librarian in a dusty archive, painstakingly restoring a medieval manuscript. She doesn't rip out the torn pages or scribble over the coffee stains. She gilds them, turning flaws into folklore. That's God with your story. Your delays aren't failures, they're narrative tension. Your failures aren't dead ends, they're plot twists. That friend's perfect family photo. Zoom out. See the uncle battling addiction, the sister hiding bankruptcy, the cracks beneath the filter. Your life isn't a race, it's a pilgrimage. Stop stealing glances at someone else's map. I see you eyeing holiness like a cage. A list of don'ts that suffocate joy. A straitjacket of rules choking your spontaneity. You've bought the lie that purity is prudish, that boundaries are bondage. But here this holiness isn't a cage, it's wildfire. Hebrews 12:29 thunders, or God is a consuming fire, not a flickering candle to be hidden under bushels of compromise. Imagine a forest ravaged by underbrush, deadwood choking the life from ancient oaks. Then comes the wildfire, fierce, unapologetic, clearing rot to make way for new growth. That's holiness. It's not about avoiding sin, it's about chasing a love so fierce it burns away every counterfeit. A teenager thinks purity is a prison until she meets the God who dances over her with singing, who calls her his treasure. A businessman thinks integrity is a liability until he realizes his honest hands are building altars. Holiness isn't a penalty, it's power. Now let's get raw. Write the lie you've believed. The one that keeps you small, silent, ashamed. Maybe it's, you're too old to matter, or your past disqualifies you. Scratch it on paper, give it a name. Then hold it up to God's astray. See how flimsy it looks under the light of, fearfully and wonderfully made. Watch it crumble against plans to prosper you. Feel it vaporize in the heat of consuming fire. Now burn it. Literally. Let flames turn that lie to ash, because truth isn't just something you believe. It's something you breathe. Your story isn't over, it's being etched in eternity, so rise, signed poem. Unfurl your scroll. Step into the wildfire. The world's waiting for your unmasked, unedited, undeniably God-breathed yes. Battle guerrilla tactics for daily rebellion. Now let's shift to militant hope. Because this isn't a passive stroll through pretty platitudes. We're at war. The enemy doesn't announce his attacks with trumpet blasts. He slithers into your commute, your inbox, your scrolling thumb. But here's the secret: holy sabotage. Imagine a resistance fighter in occupied territory, flipping the enemy's weapons against him. That's you. Your praise, your generosity, your truth tweets. These aren't just spiritual disciplines, they're guerrilla tactics. Let's break them down. First, praise as a weapon during anxiety. You know that knot in your stomach when the doctor says, "We need to run more tests," or when your kid's school calls mid-meeting. The enemy wants you to marinate in dread, but 2 Chronicles 20:22 shows a wild strategy. Judah's army didn't charge into battle swinging swords, they marched out singing. Picture that. Farmer-stern soldiers, voices shaking but lifted, declaring God's faithfulness while the enemy closed in. Then chaos. God set ambushes against their attackers. Your anxiety is the enemy's staging ground, so sabotage it. Last month, a friend texted me, "Job interview in an hour. I'm sweating through my shirt." I told her, "Blast worship music in your car. Sing until your throat hurts." She later said, "I walked in humming 'Great Are You, Lord,' and halfway through the interview, the CEO mentioned his church's food pantry. We spent 10 minutes talking about Isaiah 58. Coincidence? No, praise shifts the atmosphere. It's not denial, it's defiance. Second, generosity to break greed's hypnosis. The world screams, "Ord, protect your turf," but Acts 29:35 flips the script. It's more blessed to give than to receive. Notice, Jesus didn't say this during a prosperity seminar. He said it knowing he'd be crucified in hours. Greed's hypnosis tells you scarcity is real, that your bank account defines your security. Sabotage that lie. I've seen a single mom in our church. Budget tighter than a drum. Buy groceries for a homeless man every Friday. "It's my rebellion," she told me. "Every time I hand him that bag, I'm saying to the devil, 'You don't own my fears.'" Last week, her car broke down. Guess who showed up with a mechanic? The homeless man's brother. You can't outgive God. When you tip double during a tight month, when you donate the coat you might need someday, you're not being reckless, you're declaring economic warfare. 30 truth tweets. Not the kind that vanish in 24 hours, but scripture memes seared into your psyche. The enemy feeds you self-doubt like a drip feed. You're failing. God's disappointed. Everyone's ahead of you. Your counterstrike. Flood your mental feed with God's headlines. A guy in our small group struggled with porn. Instead of just praying, He wrote Proverbs 5:22 on sticky notes. The evil deeds of the wicked ensnare them, the cords of their sins hold them fast, and plastered them on his bathroom mirror, steering wheel, Xbox controller. Every time I reached for my phone, he said, those words screamed louder than my cravings. Your mind is a battleground, not a neutral zone. Replace I can't with Philippians 40:13. Drown I'm worthless with Zephaniah 3:17. Truth isn't a pillow, it's a scalpel. Let me get personal. Last Tuesday I almost caved. My book deadline loomed, my inbox was a dumpster fire, and I found myself Googling early retirement in Bali. Then I remembered, this is how he operates. Distraction, overwhelm, isolation, so I sabotaged it. I turned off Wi-Fi, blasted Maverick City music, and scribbled Ephesians 60:13 on a post-it. Put on God's armor so when the devil pulls his worst, you'll still be standing. Within an hour, clarity hit like lightning. The chapter wrote itself. This is your day moment. The devil wants you passive, consuming worry, nursing grudges, mindlessly scrolling. But you were born for day. Storm the beaches, burn the ships. Your worship, your giving, your truth-saturated mind. These are your Omaha Beach. Don't wait for a feeling. Declare war on maybe tomorrow. So armor up before breakfast, not with physical gear, but with the grit of gratitude. When you wake to a buzzing phone, whisper Psalm 118:24 before checking emails. This is the day the Lord has made. When the mirror critiques your body, counter with Song of Solomon 4:7. You're all beautiful, my love. There's no flaw in you. Fight for joy like your life depends on it, because someone else's does. That coworker drowning in cynicism, your defiant joy is their lifeline. That neighbor convinced God's abandoned her, your generosity is a flare in her night. The rebellion starts now, not with a manifesto, but with a whisper. Jesus, sabotage my despair. Then watch as your praise topples strongholds, your giving triggers chain reactions, your truth tweets trend in heavenly realms. The world's counting on your holy insurgency. Don't keep them waiting. Call, become an undercover agent of light. Now imagine this. You're not just a soldier in God's army. You're an undercover agent. Your mission isn't to storm enemy headquarters with grenades of judgment or bazookas of condemnation. No, this is covert ops. Your assignment is to infiltrate the shadows where darkness masquerades as normalcy, to dismantle lies with truth so subtle it feels like a love letter, and to extract prisoners of war without the enemy even noticing they're gone. Your credentials. You are the light of the world. It's Matthew 5:104, your training manual. Proverbs, your extraction tool. Radical love, and your failsafe, grace that turns your stumbles into strategic retreats. Let's activate your mission. First, infiltrate darkness with joy. The world's darkness isn't just in brothels or back alleys. It's in the break room where gossip spreads like wildfire, in the family group chat where bitterness gets mimified, in the quiet despair of a neighbor who smiles while dying inside. Your joy isn't naivety, it's a Trojan horse. I met a nurse who works night shifts in and are choked with trauma. Instead of complaining about the chaos, she hums hymns under her mask while stitching wounds. One night, a suicidal teen heard her humming, "It is well," and asked, "Why aren't you as miserable as the rest of us?" That question became a bridge to hope. Joy disarms. It's your undercover identity. When you dance in your kitchen while washing dishes, when you laugh loudly at a toddler's nonsense joke in a grocery store line, when you send a "just because" encouragement text mid-Tuesday, you're planting flash grenades of light in enemy territory. Second, decode culture's lies with Proverbs. The world's propaganda machine never sleeps. It whispers through TikTok trends. Your worth is your waist size. It blares from political rallies. Your identity is your ideology. It hisses in your insecurities. You're only as valuable as your productivity. But Proverbs is your encryption key. A college student I mentor told me how Instagram's perfect life posts made her feel like a failure. So she weaponized Proverbs 31:30. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. She wrote it on her phone case. Now, every time she scrolls, truth intercepts the lie. Another man in our church, a recovering addict, uses Proverbs 5:22 like a geolocator. When his old crew tempts him to just have one drink, he texts back, "Sorry, I'm allergic to snake venom." His code for Proverbs 20:33-2. Wine bites like a snake. Culture's lies are AI-generated deepfakes. Proverbs is your verification tool. Stop scrolling. Start sleuthing. Third, extract captives through love. The devil doesn't chain people in dungeons, he glues them to screens, numbs them with Netflix, and silences them with shame. Your mission isn't to yank them into daylight, but to bleed light into their shadows. Take Maria, a barista who noticed a regular customer's 1,000-yard stare. Instead of just handing him coffee, she wrote Psalm 34s and 1 on his cup one day. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He came back the next week shaking. I Googled that verse. How did you know I was planning to end it all? Love sees the invisible. When you pay for a stranger's gas, when you sit in silence with a grieving coworker, when you forgive the friend who betrayed you, you're not just being nice. You're a special ops medic, crawling into foxholes to drag the wounded home. But let's get tactical. Every undercover agent has a manifesto. Ours is James 47, submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. Notice the order. You don't resist first, you submit. Like a spy radioing AQ before engaging, your power comes from surrender. Last month, a mom battling rage toward her rebellious teen told me, I tried resisting the devil by screaming into pillows. It didn't work. I asked, did you submit first, like God? I'm handing you my anger. Take it or I'll weaponize it. She texted me later. I knelt and ugly cried Psalm 143, set a guard over my mouth. When my daughter came home, I didn't lecture. I hugged her, she sobbed, Mom, I'm so lost. Submission isn't weakness, it's locking onto God's jeeps before navigating hell's minefield. Now what about failures? Mission aborted. Intel leaked. Enter the grace protocol. If anybody does sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ, the righteous one. 1 John 21. When you fall, heaven's SWAT team doesn't scold. It mobilizes. Think of Peter, who swore he'd never deny Jesus, then did it 3 times before breakfast. Yet Jesus didn't demote him. He promoted him. Feed my sheep, saw John 21:107. Grace isn't a safety net, it's a trampoline. A teen in our youth group got drunk at a party, vomited in a Uber, and woke up drowning in shame. Instead of hiding, he called his small group leader. I messed up. The leader said, let's read 1 John 1:9 together. They did. Then they ate pancakes. That's the grace protocol. Confession triggers resurrection. So here's your commission. The Trinity just tagged you. Not in a guilt trip chain message, but in a blood-sealed covenant. The Father nods approval. The Son whispers, follow my playbook. The Spirit hands you an encrypted mic. Will you reply? Your mission, eternal agent, isn't to fix the world, but to flood it with covered hope. Every thank you, Jesus, in traffic jams is an imp blast to hell's grid. Every scripture texted to a doubter is a satellite realigning. Every silent hug is a rescue chopper landing in someone's war zone. The devil's worst fear isn't your perfection. It's your relentless refusal to quit shining. So sync your heartbeat with heaven's frequency. Adjust your lenses to spot divine setups. And remember, the darkest ops room is where light writes its best stories. Go be someone's plot twist.